Hey guys, in this video we'll be discussing about the most overpowered tier 8 tank, and that is tier 8 premium Panserjager. Now there are different tanks that are overpowered in each class, but this tank is overpowered of all tier 8s. There's no better tank than this tank, but for veterans. So why do I call this tank overpowered? Well, for a tank to be considered overpowered, it should have a lot of pros and no con, or very less cons. That does not balance out the tank. So one of the thing is gun. For this tank, it does not have alpha, like some traditional TDs at tier 8, but it does have good gun handling and DPM. And because the tank has camo, it can actually use that DPM despite not having the great alpha. Because you can easily put 2 shots while the enemy is reloading, while in other tanks you can only put 1 shot. So when you compare the gun of this tank, it's like 8.5 or 9 out of 10 if I have to give that rating, just because of how quick the reload is and as well as how good the gun handling is of this tank. And the gun handling is better because of lower alpha. Now the second attribute is why it's very strong is because as I mentioned, it has great camo. You're basically invisible. You'll get spotted, but if you're using the bushes correctly, it's very difficult to spot you, and basically you can keep farming the enemy tanks when they're spotted. And to compensate for that camo, it also has very good speed, so you can get in and out of positions very quickly, can rotate to help teammates, as well as spot for enemies for our team when needed. And that's what you'll see here as well. Initially I went to the right side, only managed to do 1 shot of damage despite me praising its gun, which it is a very good gun, but I was just a little impatient. I realized they are not pushing, or we have left the left side empty, and I decided to set up in this bush, very strong bush. I can keep them coming, I'll spot them as they're coming, and obviously I'll just move back if I have to fire. This bush is not as good as it used to be pre 6.0. It's weaker now because I will get spotted when I fire, which was not the case before. They probably didn't have anyone with the bar, not to mention because this tank not only has great camo, but because I have muffle shot, its muffle shot is also very effective, as I'm able to freely farm those guys without getting spotted. So some people, as I said, might say it doesn't have armor, so that's balanced. Well, it doesn't matter if you have armor or not if you're never spotted. Similarly with Tehran, because if I can keep punishing without getting spotted, why do I need the armor for? If you're relying on armor, sooner or later you will get pinned. I did get blind shot by enemy Panserjager, if I'm not mistaken. And now I spot another 2 tanks that are coming, and so far as you can see, because of such good camo as well as gun handling, I'm just going like butter from these the other tanks. I do finally get spotted. When we talk about the penetration, this tank also has very good penetration. It has 260 APCR with the 1250 meter per second shell velocity and 320 heat. That also has 950, so not bad shell velocity and heat either. And because I have gun depression, right, I can just micro peek, especially when I'm not spotted, and I can just do damage. And that's what you see. This is a tier 9 game, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm doing damage, I'm also spotting for my team. What else can you expect from a tank? So, but the reason, again, the newer players, they rely more on armor, so not recommended for them. They might prefer a TD that has more alpha, something like a 750 alpha, or maybe something that has like an autoloader, like an Iron Rain, because it limits exposure time and you're basically sitting at the back. But those tanks, they don't have the DPM. Another good tank at tier 8 that I would say for veteran is Shashka or SU-130PM. It does have more alpha, but if you compare both these tanks, the better you are at the game, this is a tank that you can abuse the more because of its fully transversible turret, 10 degrees of gun depression, as well as the DPM. And that's the transition you make, right? When you're newer, you rely on less exposure because you can't outtrade, you don't understand the camo mechanics better. But once you pass that stage, this is the tank that you'll enjoy the most because the damage just keeps coming. It just keeps flowing. You don't have to do anything. And as you can see, I'm going full speed, full bloom. I shot, and it hit the middle of the tank. Our teammate finished that guy. Obviously, I might have bounced if he had armor, but the thing is, American tank in general, they have very good soft dispersion. So whenever you have full bloom, you still more often than not do end up hitting your target, which is not the case with some other country's gun. And it also helps that this gun has lower caliber, and lower caliber that you generally do have better gun handling to begin with. For my setup, I am running loader, camo, and optics. So basically, I don't have to rely on anyone else to spot for me. And you can see in the minimap that I have a very small bloom. I will always outspot anyone, even light tanks, especially because I'm a tank destroyer. I'm going to usually be sitting behind the bush, but I can also spot late game. I can do whatever I want, and that's why it is just too strong. You don't hear that much complain about this tank, is mainly because it's a tier 8, right? It still dominates tier 8 or tier 9 games, and even can give tier 10s run for their money if they're not good players. But because it doesn't have that lot higher alpha, and most of the time not many people play it as well, right? Like Tehran is like, it has higher alpha, and get the punishment for one mistake is very extreme, which is not the case in this tank. That's why the tank's not broken, but is overpowered. So if you're a weaker player, you might not be able to do that damage, but you can dominate if you are a strong player. So in terms, I did 5700 direct damage, 4100 assist. I guess I didn't have the block damage, but other than that, it's safe to say pretty good game. So that is it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Have a great rest of your day.